Hello everyone, I'm Roslyn Nieves.
And I'm Lucia Dragos.
We're going to take you to Colden Auditorium at Queens College for Queens Borough President Melinda Katz State of the Borough Address.
This is the Borough President's first State of the Borough Address, and she selected Queens College for this prestigious event.
The program included introductions by the Honorable Jalissa Ferreras, council member from District 21.
The presentation of the colors was given by students from Francis Lewis High School.
The Pledge of Allegiance and National Anthem were performed by students from Frank Sinatra School of the Arts.
With welcome remarks by the President of Queens College, Dr. Felix Matos Rodriguez.
The Borough President covered everything imaginable in her speech, from economic development, education, housing, tourism and culture, to Superstorm Sandy and the infrastructure of the borough.
Her speech was threaded with her achievements and plans, which make Queens the ideal place to raise a family.
She emphasized, if it's good for our families, it's good for Queens.
The presentation is about to begin. Take a look.
Good morning. My name is Julissa Ferreras, New York City Council member of the 21st Council District, and I am delighted to welcome you to the Queens Borough President Melinda Katz's State of the Borough. Will everyone please rise for the presentation of the colors, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the National Anthem. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, let me welcome Queens College President, Dr. Felix Matos Rodriguez, who is graciously hosting us this morning.
Thank you so much. Good morning, buenos dias. I'm President Felix Matos Rodriguez from Queens College, and it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to our campus. We are honored that Borough President Katz has selected Queens College to host her first State of the Borough Address. I know that many of you are familiar with Queens College, and I imagine that we might have some alumni in the house. Do we have some alumni? Yes? Yes? Let's give a hand to our alumni, Queens College in the house. Great. I know that many of you are familiar with our college, and that many of you know that for decades we have been an excellent liberal arts and science college, that we have one of the best music schools in the city, and that probably no child graduates from a New York City public school without having met a Queens College alumnus, as our Division of Education has graduated more teachers, counselors, principals, and school librarians than any other college in the metropolitan area. You might know all of that, but did you know that Queens College has more computer science majors than any school in the city? More computer science majors than Columbia and NYU combined? Or that we have the third largest accounting and business program in the state of New York? Or that we have the only CUNY programs in neuroscience and photonics? Did you know also that I'm so proud of the work of our faculty in doing research that's connected to the daily life of our citizens, including the preservation of natural resources in Jamaica Bay, suggestions on how to improve our transportation infrastructure, improving the quality of the air that we breathe, and helping 9/11 respondents with their health issues. And I share all of that with you, not just because the job of any college president is to brag about their school and to be proud of the work that we do, right? But I'm telling you because all of that, all of those programs, all those resources are here for the residents of the Borough of Queens. And we're proud of that, and we're proud of being an institution that is helping to improve the quality of life in our borough and in our city. All of the city university colleges, and I'm blessed here today to have part of our CUNY extended family with the presidents from York and Queensboro and LaGuardia, the Queens Law School. All of us in the borough are fortunate that we work with elected officials who know the value of higher education and make it a priority. One recent example is that Borough President Katz and the members of the Queens delegation of the City Council provided us with $3 million to renovate our speech, language, and hearing center. A center that for 70 years, hear this, has been helping children and adults for free in our borough with their communication disorders. And I think that deserves a round of applause. Thank you, Borough President Katz, for your support and commitment and for being such an incredible action partner and leader. We are very grateful for this support and confidently look forward to many more years of fruitful collaboration to benefit our students and all the people of Queens. Thank you so much.
Thank you, President Matos. I want to take this time to acknowledge our partners in government. And we have a full house, so bear with me, the list is long. We have been joined by State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli, State Senator Joseph Adabo, State Senator Leroy Comrie, former City Comptroller John Liu, City Comptroller Scott Stringer, Public Advocate Leticia James, Council Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito, District Attorney of Queens Richard Brown, former Borough President Claire Schulman, Council Member Elizabeth Crowley, Council Member Daniel Drum, Council Member Peter Koo, Council Member Karen Kozowitz, Council Member Rory Lansman, Council Member Donovan Richards, Council Member Paul Vallone, Council Member Jimmy Van Bramer, Council Member Mark Weprin. One big round of applause for the council members. We've also been joined by U.S. District Court Judge Nick Garafis, Queensboro President North Commander Chief Pizzuti, Patrol Borough Queens South Commander Barreri, Mayor's Office of Immigrant Affairs Commissioner Agarwal. We have New York City Department of Administrative Services Commissioner Cumberbatch, Joseph Esposito, New York City Office of Emergency Management Commissioner, President of the School Construction Authority Lorraine Grillo, New York City Development Corporation President Kyle Kimball, New York Department of Queensboro President Commissioner, Department of Buildings Commissioner Lee, Queens Commissioner of the Department of Parks Lewandowski, Dottie, Department of Environmental Protection Emily Lloyd, Commissioner of New York City's Department of Parks Silver Mitchell, Federal Aviation Administration Carmine Gallo, and my father, Julio Ferreras. We've been joined by Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams and Queens Manhattan Borough President Gail Brewer. We're about to begin the program, but just as a reminder that immediately following the Borough President's remarks, we ask that you please join her next door at the reception featuring a taste of Queens. And now, please welcome again the Frank Sinatra School of the Arts as they perform their rendition of Brave.
Queens is my home.
Queens is my home.
It's my home.
Queens is where I raised my family.
It's a great place for kids.
Queens is
Families!
Queens is home for immigrants.
It's the American dream.
It's a place where we care for our seniors.
It's great schools.
Queens is harmony.
Queens is small business.
Queens is culture.
Queens is arts. Queens is the future of New York.
What is Queens? For my parents, David and Jean, Queens meant community. Mom was a performer with the USO, entertaining troops overseas. Dad was a high school teacher in Jamaica High School, working to expand music education in our public schools. They truly believed that Queens could have everything any family would need. They hated the idea that people felt like you had to go over a bridge or through a tunnel to experience culture. So Dad became the first conductor of the Queens Symphony Orchestra, and Mom founded the Queens Council on the Arts. My brothers and I grew up seeing all the diverse people, all the distinct neighborhoods, and all of the great things every community of this borough had to offer. Raising Carter and Hunter here in Queens is my American dream. And for so many families, Queens is where the American dream begins. Many of us grew up here, but even more people come here from all over the country and all over the world. At its core, Queens is the borough of families, in the most inclusive definition of the word. Over the decades, we've come to know that the word family can include so many different things. But whether young or old, nuclear, extended or blended, gay or straight, with children or without, when people come together to form a family, regardless of their race, background, or circumstance, they become the backbone of our borough and of our society. Queens is a borough where we can grow up and grow old, where we can learn and challenge ourselves, where we can find a good job to go to and a safe place to come home to. Queens really does have it all: vibrant arts and culture, fine dining and ethnic cuisine from every corner of the world, professional sports, beautiful beaches, forests and open parks, skyscrapers and neighborhoods of single-family homes, and a dynamic economy that is growing more diverse and more successful by the day. Our great schools have launched literally millions of careers, putting talented young minds out in the workplace to drive changes that our parents could not have ever imagined. Our colleges and universities produce doctors and lawyers and engineers and teachers, and countless other professionals who keep our city vibrant and healthy. We have an artistic community that is deeply embedded in our borough's culture and in our economy. Yes, we have the Queens Symphony Orchestra and PS1. But we also have television and film production that creates jobs while providing entertainment to the entire nation. Our professional sports captivate the world and weave a fabric of hope for countless young boys and girls who dream of hitting a home run at Citi Field or growing up to be the next Venus or Serena at the US Open. 50 years ago, the World's Fair drew the eyes of every nation to our borough to see what the future would look like. Today, the world is coming to our borough to make that future real. People move here every day, and we literally cannot build housing fast enough to accommodate the need. In many ways, Queens offers a number of paradoxes that will challenge us. We are one borough, yet we have so many subcultures as anywhere in the world. We speak over 100 different languages at home, which can make it difficult to speak with one voice, but we manage. We're growing older and younger at the same time, with a growing senior population that needs affordable homes and health care, and a growing community of incredible young minds working in the tech sector that will help drive our economy for decades to come. But regardless of our differences, we are one big family, made up of many, many individual families that have chosen to call Queens home. We stand united in our determination to keep this a borough of families, because we know that what's good for our families is good for Queens. Wow. Shalom. Ni hao. Assalamu alaikum. Ayung Hashiminika. Haelo. Namaste. Bonjour. Buenos dias. Soy Melinda Katz, Presidente de Condado de Queens. I am Melinda Katz, and it's my honor to serve as the president of this great borough of Queens. Our neighborhoods are home to families that hail from over 120 countries. We speak over 130 languages in our school. Here in Queens, we got so much to celebrate. We're joined here today by so many who share our vision of Queens and who work together to make it better. A quick thanks to Councilmember Julissa Ferreras for her cameo today. She makes us proud as the finance chair of the City Council, and we are very, very proud of her here in Queens. Our MC already acknowledged so many folks that are here today and partners in government. But I'd like to personally recognize our great community boards that are here today and our General Assembly that make it work at Borough Hall. Also, I want to thank those that make this city run. Our New York City Police Department, our Fire Department, and Sanitation. Our city would not be here without you. And of course, a hearty congratulations to our beloved newest state senator, Leroy Comrie. There you are, Leroy. You got a bigger applause than I did. He served with distinction as our deputy borough president for a year. And we are so proud. We are so proud that he has chosen to go to Albany and represent his area with distinction. Congratulations. I'd like to extend a special thanks to our distinguished host, Queens College, as well as our sponsor today, proud Queens native JetBlue. Families keep us grounded, and I would love it if you would extend, please, the heartiest welcome to my brothers, Michael and Matthew Katz. And as the video says, family is quite a personal definition. Folks here know Norman Adler as a union leader and a state leader. My children know them, he and his wife, Michelle Shackelford, as Uncle Norman and Aunt Dee Dee. I thank them for being here today. To Nathan Smith and Doug Ferran, your counsel has been priceless, and I thank you for your help for today and always. I also want to give a great thank you to my Chief of Staff, Jay Bond, and he's put up with me for over 20 years. But he runs a phenomenal office, so I would love for you to give it up, please, for my Borough Hall family that is here today and make it happen every single day. While today is a day that we celebrate Queens, let's take a moment to reflect on the work and the sacrifice of those who allow us to live safely in our communities and in our homes. With a heavy heart, we honor the finest, Detective Juan John Liu and Rafael Ramos, who were killed while doing what police do every day. They put themselves in the line to protect us. Please join me in a moment of silence for these fallen heroes. In addition, 3 weeks ago, Queens lost a visionary native son in Governor Mario Cuomo. A brilliant orator, three-term governor, Mario Cuomo exemplified the American dream that is so alive and well here in Queens. More than anyone, Mario Cuomo understood the greatness of our borough and the nation that our borough represents. He spoke of the family of America because he, more than anyone, knew that all lives matter. And when we all stand together as a family, we can make it happen. Governor Cuomo demonstrated unequivocally what Queens is all about. Please join me in a moment of silence for our late, great Governor, Mario Cuomo. Thank you again for being here today. Being borough president is more than just a job to me. It's a passion and a fulfillment of a dream that my parents had so long ago. Today's my first State of the Borough, and we're holding it here at Colden Center, not only because of the great institution that Queens College is, but really it's because the Queens Symphony Orchestra played here. This was their home, and thus it was home of my family. I spent my childhood playing on the stage, going on my father's legs. I even taught constitutional law on this campus. So I thought it was most fitting to have the first State of the Borough right here. I stand today here on day 387, and in the next 35 minutes, hope to share our milestones reached in the first year, as well as our vision and priorities for the future. My parents believed that Queens held all the elements of any great city, and that no one should have to cross a bridge or go through a tunnel to get great arts, culture, fine dining, and great neighborhoods. I inherited their vision while growing up here. From my childhood in Forest Hills to my education in the public school system, to studying law at St. John's, and now I'm raising my children, Hunter and Carter, in the very same house that I was brought up in. My kids keep me grounded. When we shape our city's policies and planning our borough's future, that's important. Because of them, our motto at Borough Hall is simply this: if it's good for our families, it's good for Queens. For families in Southeast Queens who face chronic problems with flooding, foreclosures, sanitation, we created the first ever interagency solutions-oriented task force that meets monthly to tackle every issue head on. When government makes quality of life a priority and demands action by our city agencies, we can deliver results. Improving our overall quality of life is good for families, and therefore good for Queens. To help small businesses, we dedicated nearly $2 million just in the past year to improve the commercial corridors throughout our neighborhoods. From Jamaica Avenue to Beach Channel Drive, to Steinway Street to 116th Street. These streets are home to thousands of small businesses, the backbone of our economy. They sell locally and they hire locally. They support our communities, and therefore they are good for families and good for Queens. To better service our veterans and the military community, this spring we'll open a Mayor's Office of Veterans Affairs satellite office right in Borough Hall. More vets call Queens home than any other borough, and they should not have to cross a bridge or a tunnel to get the great services that they deserve. They and their families served our country. They protected our freedom. And assuring their well-being is good for families and therefore good for Queens. It was a priority to help implement the largest municipal ID program in America right here in the international capital of the world, so that regardless of where someone hails from, that person can enter a city building or visit their child at school. Because tools like this, my ID card, thank you, my ID card. I get into the culturals now, this is good. Help ensure equal access to city services and city engagement. It's good for our families and good for Queens. I am unabashedly biased towards this borough. I'm personally vested in its success. Here in Queens, we offer so much to the world, and we've marked our nation's history throughout generations. In 1964, we introduced peace through understanding to the world at the World's Fair. In 1948, Queens was the host for the very first General Assembly of the United Nations right here in Queens. Even as early as 1657, Queens was the site of the Flushing Remonstrance, that brave proclamation engendered under religious persecution. This precious document stands as the precursor to the First Amendment, to our fundamental rights of religion, speech, and assembly. And in a world left horribly uncertain after police executions, Eric Gardner, Charlie Hebdo, these are the very rights that we must protect, exercise, and honor. Queens has contributed much to the world, and folks around the globe know and benefit from what we have to offer. And it continues to this day. You may say you've seen New York, but you really haven't until you've experienced Queens. We made tourism a high priority of my administration as soon as I took office last year, because it's one of the strongest tools for growth. We started first by changing all the signs on the roadways that lead into the Queens from the bridges and the tunnels. They now read, "Welcome to Queens, the world's borough." MSN Money, Condé Nast Traveler, Time Out New York, and StreetEasy.com, they all agree that Queens is hot and on the move. Sorry, Eric. In fact, Lonely Planet recently designated Queens the #1 destination of choice for travelers in the United States of America. Great neighborhoods, shopping, professional sports, arts, a nightlife, and an incomparable array of cuisines from all over the world. Queens is a unique borough, unlike any other borough. Nor do we strive to be any other borough. We don't have to claim to be the center of the universe, but we are without a doubt the intersection of the world. Some of our families can trace generations to specific blocks in our neighborhoods. But also in our borough of over 2.2 million residents today, half were born, outside the United States of America. Both new arrivals and long-established families create the communities which make it uniquely attractive for visitors and investors alike. And like generations before them, they come here to work hard and to raise their family as Americans. People spend their entire lives just to educate their children right where you are sitting here today. And it's the voices of all those families that have been the focus of my first year. Hearing their concerns, appreciating their input is priceless to our governmental decision-making process. Government is most effective when it is inclusive, and this has been our MO at Borough Hall in everything we have done and continue to do, from schools to budgets to Sandy recovery to economic development. Government makes the biggest impact when it's engaged with our communities. Because civic engagement is good for families and therefore good for Queens. Part of that is through our 14 community boards made up of nearly 700 dedicated civic-minded residents who serve as a critical role in shaping city policies. And for the record, I'm opposed to term limits for community boards. The expertise of our long-standing members balance well with the many new folks that are being appointed. I have great faith in our process and in our city council members to recommend appointments that are truly representative of their specific neighborhoods. Over 26% of all members currently sitting in Queens community boards have been serving for less than 3 years. Every member, regardless of tenure, is actually required to reapply every 2 years for these unpaid positions. Every 2 years, they are all subject to review and reconsideration by local officials, and we have maximized outreach for this, and we strongly urge anyone interested and willing to make this substantial commitment to please apply. Now's the time. Everything we're talking about today must be done in collaboration with government and with our civic partners. When everyone agrees on something, that's just a bonus. Celebrating the 50th and the 75th anniversary of the World's Fair was one such example. Over 60,000 people gathered in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park to commemorate the World's Fair motto, peace through understanding, a theme we live and breathe every day here in Queens. It was quite powerful. So moving forward, this is where we will gather for an annual Queens Day to celebrate our diversity and unite as one borough. But in recent decades, the New York State Pavilion, such a large part of the 1964 World's Fair, fell into significant disrepair from years of neglect. While growing up here, and all of you know this that grew up here, that there was debates every day. We should save it, we should knock it down, we should save it, we should knock it down. I heard time and time again from groups like People for the Pavilion, advocacy groups that were urging us to save it. But the choice by government had not been made, much less executed. So I made it. Last year, we secured nearly $6 million of city dollars to start the restoration process. In our first budget, We put in $1 million, but I'm proud to say that Mayor de Blasio put in $4.2 million, and Speaker Melissa Mark Viverito put in almost $1 million. She is here today. Please thank her for her dedication to the Borough of Queens. The World's Fair legacy has lent us a deep appreciation for our cultural institutions, which are major economic drivers here in Queens. So we committed our tax dollars into these investments. A quarter of our capital budget for fiscal year 2015 alone went to the cultural organizations for these capital improvements. With this, our treasurers will do some significant upgrades, like green energy for the Queens Botanical Garden, sound for the popular Queens Theater, lighting for the historic Flushing Town Hall. Yes, Claire, Flushing Town Hall, which, by the way, is just down the street from the Flushing Remonstrance, in case anybody was wondering. The funds will renovate Selma's house at the Louis Armstrong House Museum and expand worldwide art exhibits at Queens Museum of Art, which Queens Museum of Art was the actual site, by the way, of the first UN General Assembly. In addition, we've allocated funds to cultural programs like the Hong Kong Dragon Boat Festival, the Jim Henson exhibit at the Museum of Moving Image, which, by the way, I loved, just so you know, heritage events at the Turkish Cultural Center, and performances at the Italia Spanish Theater. Great local culturals. All this and more so that our families can continue learning, visitors keep on coming, and folks keep investing. Queens offers a dynamic and attractive landscape for investment and job creation, which means, by the way, better opportunities for families and visitors to live, work, and play. It's an exciting time for Queens. As we move forward, the opportunity, guised as a challenge for government, is to keep Queens competitive as the most attractive option for families to not just move here, but more importantly, to actually stay here. And we're doing that in a number of ways. In Western Queens, we're building the city's leading tech ecosystem, encouraging access, innovation, and entrepreneurship. That's why we're working with the Coalition for Queens, and we have created a task force co-chaired by Councilmember Jimmy Van Bramer, who is also here today, to create the Queens Tech Strategic Plan. Over 50 startups like Crate, Digital Natives, and Shapeways 3D printing have already hatched right here in our borough. To augment this growth, we're planning to launch targeted IT and QA workforce training programs, as well as centralized internship programs directly linking folks here to opportunities with this burgeoning tech sector in our borough. And that's just the beginning. By leveraging Queens' ample space for growth in Western Queens, its projected development, and its proximity to the Cornell New York City Tech campus, we will steer our borough into the competitive lane of the digital age, and we can't wait. Our significant investments in our infrastructure are also a key to our success. I'm committed to this because it will make the difference between staying competitive or stifling our growth potential. Take, for example, JFK and LaGuardia, New York City's gateways to the world. About 48,000 people alone are employed at both airports, and it generates over $50 billion in economic growth a year. Yet the investments in these gateways have historically fallen quite short. I applaud the governor and the Port Authority for investing additional billions of capital to redevelop LaGuardia's central terminal and airport infrastructure, especially his proposal announced yesterday to create an air train to LaGuardia Airport. I'm also proud to have been appointed to Governor Cuomo's Committee on Airport Redesign and Modernization. I look forward to serving him in that capacity. As much as our airports are economic assets to the region, we all know in this room that with it comes the need to mitigate the direct and daily negative impacts upon the communities surrounding them. Chronic noise and air pollution plague many of our neighborhoods. So we've coordinated meetings on reducing airplane noise and on the developments around the airports. To maximize community input when flight patterns over the borough are either created or modified, we will continue to work with the FAA. And a quick thanks to Port Authority Executive Director Patrick Foy, who's also here with us today, because now it is time for all of us, the Port, FAA, elected officials, the communities around the airports impacted by noise and all the other quality of life issues, to work together to leverage this exciting new technology that hopefully makes our skies safer and quieter. We have major hubs that do business in Queens, but we also rely on our small businesses. We're improving the ways in which we help our small businesses thrive. Because thriving local businesses are clearly good for families and therefore good for Queens. But oftentimes, the best thing government can do is get out of their way. Many business owners are weighed down by citations, wasting precious time and resources navigating bureaucratic issues. This year, we will work in conjunction with agencies on programs like the Business Acceleration Team that will help business owners resolve outstanding violations and promptly. We've already been helping to untangle miscommunications between our agencies that delay business openings. So in a recent example, local Astoria resident Dennis Lee was ready to open up his neighborhood coffee shop right here on 30th Street. But even though he had properly registered the business and he kept receiving conflicting information from different city agencies, the city wanted to help. The agencies wanted to help. But the back and forth delayed the opening of his shop for months. So I always tell my staff, I asked you for the time. Don't build me a clock. So my staff stepped in. We quickly ironed out all the tangles of communications between the agencies, and soon thereafter, Mr. Lee's Astoria Coffee finally opened its doors for business and has been a boon to the neighborhood. In addition to connecting businesses with government resources, we're also working with agencies to link our underemployed to job opportunities. Jobs are obviously good for families and good for Queens. That's why my office sponsored or co-sponsored 8 job fairs for local residents, leading to 450 applicants getting actual jobs. That's why in downtown Jamaica, we've launched with City Hall the Jamaica Planning Initiative. Jamaica is one of the most affordable commercial hubs that offer housing, amenities, and transportation. It's really one of the most strategically positioned, yet lowest priced real estate left in town. We've undergone a community-wide planning process over the course of 2 public conferences and 30 meetings in the past 9 months. In partnership with the mayor's office, together with the local stakeholders, we are going to continue to create a diverse, vibrant, accessible community around our city's greatest central business districts and intermodal transportation hubs in Jamaica, Queens. So together, everyone in this room, we're not only creating jobs, we're creating neighborhoods. Astoria Cove is a 2.2 million square feet mixed-use project that was approved in November, but not without some effective checkpoints along the way. I'm especially proud of working in tandem with our great new council member, Costa Constantinidis, on this. I want to thank our speaker as well for the great work that she did on this. Now, given the scale and scope of the project, just so everyone knows, I said no to the original proposal last year because I considered it to have some insufficiencies in the original proposal. Insufficiencies like the proportion of affordable housing units, investments in alternative mass transit options, a timeline for school construction, and no skilled labor commitments. It was unacceptable that for such a large project like this in Queens, there was no project labor agreement. So the city negotiated hard. The developer agreed to up the share of affordable housing units from the originally proposed 20% to 27%. There's also a $5 million commitment for a ferry dock, a new school, a new supermarket, public access to the waterfront, and there is now a PLA that ensures the projects are built and operated by skilled labor in compliance with prevailing wage. We're very proud that the planned Astoria Cove project is now consistent with our borough's commitment to responsible development. It's good for families, it's good for Queens. Coming up, the Flushing West study has been announced by the Department of City Planning. This objective is to provide new affordable housing and development opportunities, provide public access to the waterfront for passive and recreational uses. We look forward to community involvement, and in 2015, it will come up with recommendations that will eventually undergo the ULURP process, and we look forward to that. We've talked a lot about the city's investments in our infrastructure and business. But the #1 economic investment that we can make in our families is education. First thing any parent asks when going into a neighborhood, how are the schools? In Queens, we have some of the best school districts in the entire city. But it's remarkable because our school districts rank among the highest in the overcrowding rates across the city. Some of our schools are at over 200% capacity. Yet, our schools manage to boast some of the highest graduation rates and the lowest dropout rates in the city. I'd say there's a lot of reasons for this, but I believe the biggest part of this is because of our parents. The more vocal the parents, the better the school. I actually think the Department of Education's worst nightmare was when my son entered public school. Love the teachers, love the principals, but DOE and I have had a lot of conversation over the last few months. But as soon as I started at Borough Hall, we convened the Parent Advisory Board because I know how important that is. It provides parents a forum to meet with senior city and state education officials. It provides a direct channel so that they can be heard on educational issues. To strengthen and empower more parents, we've hosted a training workshop at Borough Hall for existing PTAs, as well as any parents interested in coming. Please join us. We also conducted workshops for school principals on how to apply for capital money for their schools. But priority #1 is addressing the critical overcrowding in our schools. We need to get our kids out of the trailers and into our classrooms. Our kids deserve better, and we should demand it. So we are working closely with School Construction Authority and our great partner and president, CEO Lorraine Grillo, who is here today. Lorraine and I have known each other a long time. Together, we've implemented some real expiration dates for these rusty, dilapidated trailers. We're doing this by identifying underutilized spaces and converting them into instructional areas. And so by the end of this year, all the trailers at PS 55 in Jamaica, PS 70 in Astoria, PS 92 in Corona, and yes, Richmond Hill High School, all those trailers will finally be removed. Other schools are on track to be trailerless within a few years, including PS 11 and IS 125 in Woodside, PS 163 in Fresh Meadows, and yes, even Bayside High School. Can't do this without the great elected officials who came before me also and fought so hard for these items. All of this is with the singular goal of elevating our public schools and ensuring that our kids remain globally competitive in the 21st century. Because if it's good for our families, it's good for Queens. But to achieve this, we need more. More. That includes finding more locations for full-day pre-K so that it's right in our own neighborhoods. The enrollment for full-day pre-K in Queens is expected to quadruple in a year. It's a fantastic program. It directly impacts families. And here we're identifying more locations with community-based organizations to place more pre-K seats. I am imploring you that if you have any ideas for potential locations, that you please email our office. So we need more. More pre-K locations, more gifted and talented programs across our schools, more investments in higher education, especially our CUNY, more resources for capital improvements, updated technology inside our K-12 classrooms, by the way, including special needs classrooms, more college-ready graduates, and greater economic opportunities so that folks stay in Queens, or they come back and they build in Queens. More focus on real education, actual learning, and less teaching to the test that is required of our teachers. So, I am very privileged that I have the opportunity to go home almost every day at some point and help my son Carter with his first grade homework. And those of you that have kids in elementary school know exactly why that's a privilege. I love his teachers. I love his principal. They're absolutely wonderful. And there's no question about their commitment and devotion to our kids' education and their success. But I can tell you what I'm not a fan of. It's the Common Core. I agree that we all need standards, but no one's arguing that there shouldn't be standards. But as a Queens parent, I feel in my gut that there's just something wrong here. I am an attorney, born and raised in Forest Hills. I graduated summa cum laude from University of Massachusetts, and I very often still can't figure out the correct way of getting my son to the correct answer, even if the actual answer to the math question is right. It's not a common core. It's a common problem. And I hear it from parents from every country around the world, in every neighborhood, from everywhere in the borough of Queens. We just got to do something about it. Because when it comes to the quality of our kids' education, there's no limit to better. A tremendous part of our kids' education is also inherent in our Queens Borough public libraries. They are community hubs that are safe and they're enriching. Parents know that children can go there after school. Our seniors go to log on and read the news in various languages. It's where residents go for essential job training and literacy courses. It's where I got my Muni ID. Yay! Our libraries are truly one of the borough's most treasured assets. But in the first few weeks upon taking office, a series of disturbing revelations emerged about years and years of questionable spending. So we worked with the government colleagues, and under a new law sponsored by Assemblymember Jeffrey Aubrey and Senator Michael Gianaris, the mayor and I were able to reform and restructure the board, which included removing the now former trustees who had blocked transparency around the library's finances. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. The library was finally able to open its books as requested by City Controller Scott Stringer for a thorough investigation. Give it up for City Controller Scott Stringer, who has joined us today. I'd like to thank the new and some of the remaining board members who selflessly serve as unpaid volunteers to oversee an invaluable library system. But a special message to all the dedicated staff and volunteers in each of our single Queens library branches. I'd like to extend my deep appreciation. You know, throughout last year's dark saga, you were really the face of the library that the public interacted with every single day. When all else was in flux, you managed to keep the library going with the day-to-day operations, and we thank you from the world's Borough. You are what makes the libraries good, good for families, and therefore good for Queens. Taking care of our children means taking care of our entire family. And the reality for many Queens families today is that our grandparents and our elders are helping by raising their grandchildren so that the parents can go out and work. This is a good thing. So we need to keep our seniors close to home in the communities they've known for decades. And we need to make that option affordable. It's not only the right thing to do and the moral thing to do, but it's also the economically prudent thing to do. Their kids need to go out and work. Neighborhood by neighborhood, many people come up to me, and you know what they say, right? They say, Melinda, you're going to make Queens the best commodity in the city of New York. Keep it affordable. And that's the challenge today. In fact, among the intake of over 1,000 constituent complaints that Borough Hall received in the first year, the number one issue was about the need for more affordable housing, in particular, senior affordable housing. So we've been hard at work. In every single meeting with every developer, since I took office as borough president, my first question is always, how many units are going to be dedicated to senior citizens? So here's what we got. In Richmond Hill, we cut the ribbon on 65 units of senior affordable housing at the Richmond Hill Living Residences. In South Jamaica, we'll have 52 units of senior affordable housing on Guy Brewer Boulevard in partnership with Calvary Baptist Church. In Corona, we'll break ground on another 67 units of senior affordable housing at the Hannock Corona Senior Residences. And in downtown Flushing, and a lot of you know this, developers are chomping at the bit to build senior housing in the area now known as Muni Lot 3. And we're working on more. As I said, the need for affordable housing is a family issue. In downtown Jamaica, we cut the ribbon on 20 units of affordable housing on 161st Street. Richmond Hill, we cut the ribbon on 117 units of affordable housing on Jamaica Avenue, and in Astoria, 483 units are going to be affordable at Hallett's Point. In Hunters Point South, we're nearing completion of over 3,000 market rate, low rate, and middle income housing units that will adorn a waterfront esplanade. And in Astoria Cove, we'll create 460 units of affordable housing. Congratulations again to the council for letting us get that done. So indeed, affordable housing is good for families, and therefore, you got it. As our communities and families grow, we must also balance that growth with our neighborhood preservation. That's been a key to our borough. Remember, Queens is the only borough that still says our neighborhood on our postal code, right? We say Forest Hills, New York, Bayside, New York. We have since 2002, 45 neighborhoods in Queens have been contextually rezoned. Thank you, John Young and Carl Weisbrod. It's important to balance our high density with also preserving our communities. So I'm proposing to create a specific zoning designation to protect neighborhoods that are primarily defined by single-family row houses like those in Maspeth and Ridgewood. Pat Dolan of the Queens Civic Congress, she was right. This will help preserve places that so many families have called home in a much more predictable way. There's an unprecedented citywide crisis that our current administration has inherited, and that is one of staggering homelessness. The number of homeless families, teens, and children today, it's at a record high. Combating this crisis is imperative, and it will require a strong, multifaceted commitment by the city towards permanent housing. So I got to tell you, I was frankly disappointed by NYCHA's proposal last year to allocate only 750 public housing apartments annually for homeless families. We've urged the administration to work with NYCHA to increase this annual allocation from 750 to 2,500 public housing units. We need to keep people at home. We not only need to plan for the known, but we also need to plan for the unexpected. We talk about families staying here, but it's disasters like Superstorm Sandy that truly test a community's resolve. For post-Sandy Rockaways and other low-lying communities in Queens, I insist on not just rebuilding, but rebuilding better and rebuilding stronger. A key component of this is making sure that the voices of the people who know their community better than anyone else are an integral part of that rebuilding effort. We played a vital role in the institution of a number of policy changes within the city's Superstorm Sandy housing recovery process. We put key players at the table every single month. They went item by item to cut through the red tape so that often slows down government doesn't happen. Among those changes is the streamlining of the application process for developers and architects submitting construction plans to the Department of Buildings, where these plans have been limited exclusively to being submitted in Manhattan. Through my working side by side with the Department of Buildings, Rick Chandler and Commissioner Derek Lee, we've set in motion plans to place a satellite office at Queensborough Hall. Along with the satellite office comes the opportunity to bring that application process closer to home for the hurricane victims. They're still working while expediting the approval of plans for construction permits. Through our work, the Hurricane Task Force has also reached out to thousands of Build It Back applicants who simply fell off the radar. They lost faith in the process. We're bringing them back under a new administration and a new policy. We would like to thank Senior Advisor to the Mayor for Recovery, Resiliency, and Infrastructure, Bill Goldstein and Amy Peterson of Build It Back for their dedication to Superstorm Sandy, and they are here today. And for all those that are still going through the process, I know we got a lot of work to do, but at least we're starting to move in the right direction. Finally, I want to address one unfinished business for the Rockaways, and that's the Rockaway Ferry. This temporary ferry was provided following the storm. While in service, it proved to be extremely useful to residents lacking real transit options. And it was an economic generator. It brought people from other parts of the city to the Rockaways. Despite our efforts, the city has eliminated that service for now. But I will continue to fight alongside the community for inclusion of permanent ferry service to and from the Rockaways in the 5-borough ferry plan. I do believe it will be a success. In other strides on behalf of other survivors in Queens who are a testament to our borough's resilience, Queens has made great strides in improving services for survivors of domestic violence and for their families. Thanks in large part to the New York City Police Department, our District Attorney, Judge Richard Brown, Queens currently has the highest domestic violence conviction rate and the lowest dismissal rate in New York City. We've also significantly increased support services for survivors through the Queens Family Justice Center. And this past October, in a joint effort between my office and District Attorney Brown, and Safe Horizon, we applied and received a $900,000 federal grant through the Justice Department's Violence Against Women. These monies will go a long way in sustaining our efforts to combat domestic violence. District Attorney Judge Brown is here with us today. Thank you, Judge Brown, for your outstanding commitment to breaking the cycle. In a borough of families, enhancing access to health care is a major priority. There's nothing more important than your family's health. First, we must make sure that those without insurance actually register for health insurance. To make that happen, we've done registration drives across the borough at Elmhurst Hospital, Queens Hospital Center, and Jamaica Hospital Center. But too many emergency rooms are overcrowded. It's due to the closure of 5 acute care hospitals in the past 7 years. Last year, I visited North Shore LIJ freestanding emergency room at Old St. Vincent's with Congressman Joseph Crowley. I was taken by how much they offer in terms of urgent care, services like surgeries, outpatient rehab that aren't covered by other facilities. The freestanding ERs could help alleviate the stress on our existing ERs. More importantly, they would accept anybody, regardless of their status, regardless of insurance, regardless of immigration status. Those emergency rooms would take anyone in the time of ultimate critical need. So, as a city, we're at some really tough crossroads. But in every challenge, there's opportunity. We can make it better and we can make it stronger. Here in Queens, you can still do a lot in only one generation. This is, after all, the promise of the American dream. And the successes of past generations keep this dream very much alive in the world's borough. It's why folks everywhere work so hard to come here. They work so hard to get educated here, to start a business, to get their kids in our schools, to start and raise their families right here in the borough of Queens. And it's the voices of all these families, past, present, and my own, that have been the focus of my first year as borough president. Because in this great borough we call home, even with all of our diversity, we are reminded every single day that people at our core have much more in common than they do different. We are about finding a better life for our children than we ever dreamed of having. And so we stand united in this determination to keep this a borough of families, for families. Because we know that if it's good for families, it's good for Queens. Thank you very much for coming.
As I said, she covered everything in her presentation.
And Queens is now known as the world's borough.
That's right. The Queens Borough President teased Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams about his popularity, and I got to interview him. Take a look.
I spent my childhood in Queens, in St. Albans. I grew up in St. Albans, Queens, where my mother was able to afford a small house, and we learned much of our roots here in the borough. And so my heart is here in Queens as well as the borough of Brooklyn, where I'm happy to be the borough president.
Now listen to what else was said after the Queens Borough President's presentation.
That's the borough president's greatest power, to be able to put everybody in a room, either it's a huge room like this or smaller rooms at Borough Hall, and make stuff happen. I as an individual council member, I can get people on the phone, I can work with them, but if the borough president puts her weight behind an issue, it amps it up significantly. And so out of this speech this morning, I've already got something that's gonna happen in my district that's positive.
Melinda's always had vision, and she laid out a really, really ambitious plan, and it's going to require a lot of support. And I believe that, as she said, Queens is the borough of the world, roughly phrasing her. I think the Rockaways also is a microcosm of that with its diversity and all its untapped potential. So whether she's talking about the ferry, affordable housing, economic development, rebuilding our infrastructure, the opportunity is there for RDRC, not just the RDRC, but the Rockaways, to partner with Ms. Katz in that vision. So we're really excited about the opportunity, and we look forward to working with her.
It's always great for us at Queens College to be able to host an event like this, particularly a historic one, the first State of the Borough address by Borough President Katz. She has been part of the Queens College family, as she said in her speech, since the beginning, being at the Queens Symphony plays here, and that she's been very supportive of the college. And it's great when you have all the great energy of the borough gathered here together. Here, you hear what the plans are. She's been very supportive of education, obviously for us. In higher education, it's important that we have the best K-12 system, so we get those students when they come to college. So for me, it was great to hear her vision, her plans, and to have the college be what it has been since 1937, a resource for the community. That's what we're here for, and that's my pledge. So happy to be host, happy to do it again, and thank you for being here.
What impressed me the most was that just like President Obama gave a very thorough speech just a couple of days ago, our own president, Melinda Katz of the Borough of Queens, gave a really widespread view of the potential that Queens has for housing, for better education, for improving our cultural institutions that reflect the fact that people from all over the world come to Queens. But she also gave a one-year progress report, and I just can't believe that in 1 year she's accomplished so much by the way of business development, by the way of job creation. It makes me very proud to be a Queens resident today.
With Senator Comrie, and the borough president said that he got a bigger applause than she did. Now, what do you think of that, Senator?
She's just teasing. We like to have fun with each other. We had a great working relationship over the past year. It was an honor to work with her, to see her passion for the borough, and to understand that she also wants to make sure that Queens is the best place that it can be, the place that families want to live, and the place that is in a real positive growth cycle. And I'm just happy that I was able to work with her and to help her and to be of a good partner in terms of making sure that the things that we both wanted to work on were achieved. And it was a great year for me. I look forward to more action, activism, and from the borough president, making sure that there are leads and opportunities that continue to be evolved through her passion, through her guidance, and through her willing to be in a leadership position to ensure that when government is perplexed about an issue, that they can come to the table at Borough Hall and work it out.
My name is Janelle Tomlin. I thought the presentation was wonderful. It was nice to hear such positive things about the borough that I live in, and it was very nice to be here today.
I'm Joan Estick, and I'm the parent coordinator at PS 37, and it was wonderful. I've actually heard her before, but this was positive, this was strong, and this is something to just motivate us as a Queens people to get involved and make changes. It was wonderful indeed, and I'm happy to be here.
PA President, PS 37, Pauline Nemmons, and it was just fantastic. It opens up a whole new world to people who do not know about Queens. Yes. I left from Jamaica, West Indies to Jamaica, New York, and I am so proud. And I really take my hat off to her today.
And her team.
And the team, yes. Thank you so much.
My name is Larry Lovemore, hip-hop legend Larry Love. And I'm grateful to be here with the president of New Order Solutions today. I'm a lifetime resident of Queens, and to hear the Queensboro president speak on the noise control in our community with the airports, and to speak on taking the kids out of the trailers and putting them back into schoolhousing. I think that's great. Don't you agree?
Yes, I do. I'm Brunelle Holder from New Order Solutions, and I've known Melinda since she started. I've heard her first speech, and I had to meet her to tell her that I am behind her 100%. I helped her do her campaign, and as far as what she said about Queens, especially Southeast Queens, because that's my home, that's where I grew up at, that's where I played it as a child, and I want to see it still prosper. That's why my organization is doing so much within that community to get things done. We're looking for a change. That's why we're calling ourselves New Order of Solutions, bringing seniors and youths together, and I'm hoping that Melinda will help us do that, because a child can learn from a senior as well as a senior can learn from a child. So I'm pushing that very strongly, and I'm looking forward to working a lot in Southeast Queens as well as Queens.
and the history of Queens is so important. We moved to Springfield Gardens in 1962. Dr. Kildare, Dr. Ben Casey was our neighbors. Down the block was a home on Thurston Street in Westgate where Bob Holt's mother lived. You know, and so that community was so rich, and for her to rebuild that community and bring back the legacies of our community is so great. And I'm so glad to have voted for Melinda Katz.
I thought it was an excellent presentation, particularly when she spoke about the Jamaica area, because we're from the Southeast Queens Chamber of Commerce. So about the planning and all the things that they're doing, Jamaica Avenue down to Guy Brewer and all of that. So I thought it was excellent. Very good. She's opening some things up, and we're looking to do some great things in Queens. And I like that motto that she has also. It's great. It's great. If it's good for the family, it's good for Queens.
Excellent. I'm Reverend Simone Lord from the Southeast Queens Chamber of Commerce, and we loved the presentation because it was so inclusive and it was so focused on making Queens a destination spot, because Queens was voted one of the best places to visit, and so we want to help with that in Southeast Queens with the Chamber by making it a more cultural hub to rebirth the artistic flavor and culture of Queens.
Hi, I'm Najiba Nunez-Berger, President of the Latin American Cultural Center of Queens, a member of the board of QPTV. I think the presentation was wonderful, was very professional. It really covered all the different aspects of the work that she's doing in Queens, which is tremendous, starting with the change of, the idea of putting the Queens Borough, and I think she has a lot of energy, and she's been wonderful for Queens.
Well, I'm Kevin Forrestal, and this is Jackie Forrestal. We're from Hillcrest Estates in Queens. And what we thought, at least what I thought about the remarks today, is it was very encompassing, and it spoke about the diversity of Queens, the importance of Queens historically and in the future, and what a great place it is for families. And if it's good for the family, it's good for Queens, is the punchline, and a very appropriate one.
I totally agree. It was like a breath of fresh air having Melinda speak here today, and the issues she brought, including one of my favorites was the single-family zoning for row houses. We thank you, Melinda.
My name is Trudy Schwartz. I was very happy that she took a special interest in senior housing and taking care of seniors generally. I thought her speech was excellent, and I'm glad there's somebody who puts new wind into the system.
My name is Yolanda de la Cruz Gallagher. I am very much in admiration of her management, administration, and governance as Queens Borough President.
Actually, she did a very good representation. I would like to thank her, because this is the first time in the first year the Borough President Melinda, he tried to put together all the South Asian community, And he also, in the 1 year, she trying to opening a job, she's trying to bring a business, she's trying to bring a senior citizen residence, she's trying to bring low rent housing things, and she's trying to put a lot of attention on the roads, libraries, everything. Means she tried to accomplish everything within a year, and I hope she will be very successful president of the Borough of the Queen.
I thought she did a fabulous job. It was really inspiring. She was just very inspiring. And of course, I'm biased. I'm from the cultural sector. My name's Paz from Topaz Arts. And it's really great that she mentioned arts and culture as well as families and what is important to being in Queens so that people don't have to travel to find culture, and it's all right there within each neighborhood. And that's what makes Queens so great, I think. So
I thought it was an outstanding speech that she gave today. She covered all the topics that are so important to the people in Queens. And it's a great honor or privilege to have her as our borough president. And we're very proud of her in Fresh Meadows, on Community Board 8, and all the other things I serve on. We're very proud of her, and I give her 2 thumbs up.
That's it for today's show. If you missed any part of the program, just watch it again at qptv.org.
And don't forget to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
I'm Roslyn Nieves.
And I'm Lucia Dragos.
Watch QPTV. It's on now.